but how does that actually materialize into what it is today? How did you find a secured place to where you can actually shoot these things? What did budget look like if you're not funding it yourself? Like all of these, like the nuts and bolts of getting stuff going.
There never was any funding. It was all completely a passion project. As you know, I mean, having people that just like to do stuff, especially when there's like a creative motive to do it, those people are worth their weight in gold.
The story of Sessions is really, really inspiring.
The idea of it was giving artists a platform to perform during the pandemic where they didn't have that ability, right? Given the resources that we had, we made that happen. The cool thing that we did was, I firmly believe in a hospitable environment because it really creates an atmosphere that people feel like they're cherished, and I believe that art is something to be cherished.
Hello, you beautiful people. I am here to make some quick announcements. I have noticed that 85% of the people who watch my videos are not subscribed. I would love to change this. So this is the part where I get to, beg you for likes and subscribes. All jokes aside, it actually really does help me grow the channel, and once I hit 1,000 subscribers, it'll allow me to unlock YouTube's community features. This way I can start running polls and surveys, and I can really ask you lovely people, the stuff that you want to engage with. Speaking of stuff that you want to engage with, I now present Oliver Stellfox. Oliver Stellfox, you are a wonderful human being who is extremely talented in video production, audio production, the acquisition of musical talent, booking. You pretty much do it all, and your claim to fame is the Emmy award-winning Sessions in Place, a live stream music series that started over the pandemic. I'm so excited to have you here. Welcome to the show.
I'm so excited to be here. You are a number one human in my regard.
My heart.
Yes.
So, tell me about Sessions in Place.
Yes, Sessions in Place started April 11th, 2020, and it's more of like a collective of artists more than any one person leading the charge. And there is the truth that I led the charge, and Ben was kind of second in command in it. But, then what followed suit was Derek and Brent, Austin, and Richard. But so what it is, or was a live stream concert series that we did weekly for 73 consecutive weeks. So starting April 11th, 2020, all the way till August 28th, 2021, I believe. If that's correct, I win another Emmy.
Good for you.
But yeah, so the idea of it was giving artists a platform to perform during the pandemic where they didn't have that ability, right? So given the resources that we had, we made that happen. We had people that were audio, we had people that were camera, we had people that did tech directing and lighting and photography, and it honestly is my very favorite thing that I've ever had a hand in. So
that's crazy. 73 plus consecutive weeks. That is wild.
Yeah.
How do you keep momentum and steam throughout all of that? That's
Well, the little cheat code for me is that stuff gives me life.
It helps.
It does. Like getting there 11 a.m. whatever, and setting up so that we can start rehearsing at 3 p.m. and then because like at the end of it we were doing 2 a day.
Jesus.
And
okay.
we would record one and then live stream another. And it was a lot, but it was something that was, I believe, needed.
Yeah.
And that we all believed that was needed.
Absolutely. So how do you begin a project like this? Because like you said, you had a collection of people with various skills and a dream, but how does that actually materialize into what it is today? How did you find a secured place to where you can actually shoot these things? What did budget look like if you're not funding it yourself? Like all of these, like the nuts and bolts of getting stuff going.
Yeah. Well, so to get it going, actually, you asked a lot of questions all at once. Okay, maybe one question at a time.
Yeah, I'll definitely backtrack. So let's start. How did you find a space to go and do this? Because you need a large space. It's not like you can just shoot this in someone's living room.
It's funny you should say that, because
Yeah.
one of those was shot in my living room.
I figured.
Yeah, no, it's all about utilizing resources. And so a bunch of us come from production background, and our very first sessions were at Election Studios in Redmond. And that's just, once again, just a utilization of resources. And we were there for, I don't even remember how many weeks consecutively, but then from that, having Brent on our very first session, he was like, well, what about the Fremont Abbey? And we were like, yeah, what about it? And he's like, well, I can make that happen. And I was like, yeah, let's do that, because that's a lot better of a situation. Not better of a situation, it's a lot different of a situation. And there's like an acoustic footprint of the Great Hall at Fremont Abbey that was just beautiful. And the realization is that 44 of those 73 first episodes were actually at the Fremont Abbey, if not the Fremont Abbey, Ballard Homestead, which we did one. So yeah. No, I guess to say it in summation, it is just utilization of resources.
Okay, so it's the real scrappiness. Like, it's, the people that favors that you can kind of pull, everyone, they've lived some bit of life. They have connections and networking and the ability to kind of pull on stuff when need be. Okay, so a lot of this, there was really no outside funding at the beginning. It was just really, you, a bunch of friends and your network, and you said, hey, I have an idea. Let's go do the thing.
There never was any funding. It was all completely a passion project.
Yeah.
As you know, I mean,
yeah.
Jason here, he was a part of it, and he couldn't get away from it, and it's a very beautiful thing. And we're blessed to have you on, because like having people that just like to do stuff, especially when there's like a creative motive to do it, those people are worth their weight in gold. Like I love that.
Yeah.
It's like all day long we can be in dream world, right? But I like to live in reality. I like to live in the world of dream to reality, which is why I like to surround myself with the people that I do. Yeah. It's something very special.
So let's talk about the skill sets, because to have a very successful and diverse team, you don't want 6 people who all do the exact same thing. So it's nice to hear, complementary skills. So all of your aspects of the production for this case is covered. How did you guys kind of divvy up your skill sets? Because more or less all of you have overlapped to some degree.
Yeah. So what first happened in that regard was the realization sort of that I, like you said in the intro, I do have a lot of reins that I hold. So I kind of took it upon myself in being the big daddy, being Daddy Sip. Also, we all had nicknames in it that were daddy related. I was Safety Daddy to begin with, but then, we beat the pandemic and I just was Audio Daddy. Anyways, it's the realization that like I just had to get these cats in order, right? And it wasn't ever a fact of like, Oliver's in charge, listen to Oliver. It was more of just like, I realized that need and I attempted to fulfill it, just because that realization. And it's like everyone's coming from different backgrounds. Like, the beauty is that Brent, he does come from an audio background, but he transitioned to video. And then Ben has always been video, but he also does motion graphics, and he also directs and things like that. Like him and I both worked on this thing called Broken Signals that was a pilot episode of a TV show that we did pre-pandemic, and it's beautiful. And there was over like 250 volunteers on that, and that was also another passion project. And then there's Austin, who comes from kind of like the Mandalorian world in a way of like that LED wall utilizing tracking and all that. Yeah. Like that's his thing. We never really did anything with that, unfortunately. But whatever. And then there's Derek, who is a touring lighting guy, and he kind of came alongside at the same time of us going with the Abbey.
Okay.
And then Richard was a find from Production Peeps on Facebook.
Okay.
And I believe it was Ben and Austin interviewed him, and the first session that we had him out, we couldn't get him away. And when he didn't want to, or when we were like, Richard, maybe take this week off from tech directing. He was a camera operator, but the beautiful part about it was that he was on an office chair on the Dana Dolly, and it's just the funniest sight to see.
Yeah.
Just the guy scooting around.
Like, all right,
yeah. But like, I mean, you've been on many a production, like seeing all those people interact together. Like, what's your perception?
I actually talked to Ryan Vanucci about this on our previous episode, and I described it as an incredibly well choreographed dance. Everyone is just moving around each other, just in perfect rhythm. So
especially the jib and the Steadicam.
Yes, you don't whack people in the head. So for people listening, a jib is the giant, crane with a camera on it that kind of moves around, gets the really cool. Yeah, kind of like that.
Sorry, Kat.
Kind of like that. So that's moving out through the space. You have to get not clocked in the head by that, and Ben's usually running that. Richard is calling the shots, saying, "Hey, we're on this camera, and now we're on this camera, and now this camera." And then Brent is running around with the Steadicam, just a giant harness with a heavy-ass rig with the camera on it. Runs around and kind of gets cool shots. As we mentioned before, but like the Dana Dollies, for those who might be unaware, cameras on rolling sliders on rails, so you get nice smooth
it's like rollerblade wheels, so it's super smooth.
It's actually really cool.
Yeah. Also, for those people out there that really hate their office chairs and how they're shitty plastic wheels, you can get pop-out ones that are rollerblade wheels. Hot tip.
It's a great tip.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just a well choreographed dance. Everyone's just moving around each other, never colliding into each other. Richard's calling the shots, so you know what camera's live. So
yeah,
you don't
everyone's on comms
get in the way.
except for me. I'm just kind of living my own world.
Funny enough, because you're one of the audio people, not on comms.
Yeah.
But it's an absolute beautiful thing to watch. It feels so seamless. In practice, it's a little chaotic, but it's controlled chaos. It's fun.
From the outsider point of view, I don't think that is witnessed, the chaos, but from an internal point of view, yes, you can cut that chaos with a knife. It's thick.
But yeah, no, just to be on that set, it's absolutely amazing. So actually, speaking of amazing things, it all kind of boils down to the artist, because they're the ones doing the performance. How did you go about finding talent in the beginning, before you had, motion of this project behind you, before people knew what it was?
Yeah, so the beauty of it, okay, I realize I keep on saying the beauty of it. I'm going to stop saying that. And if I do say it again, you can slap me in the face. That's
we'll put a counter on the screen.
That's consent. Yeah, the beauty of it. So the thing that was the precursor was really the thing, the precursor to Sessions in Place. The thing that was the precursor to Sessions in Place really established that integration into the musicians of Seattle. And that precursor was this thing called Sit Down, Be Quiet, and Just Be. And what that was a concert series that I held in my own home that I converted into a black box theater. And I actually had a friend donate like $1,700 to me to just buy gear, buy whatever I needed to like make it better. And every musician that I had there, I found out through Connor Byrne. Shout out Connor Byrne. They're back, baby. And I used to go to open mic every Sunday, play every Sunday. And anytime I would enjoy someone, I'd just go up to him and be like, "You're awesome. I have this thing called a mouthful of a name. I'd love for you to come on it." And the agenda or the objective that I always gave every artist was I wanted them to create a video that played behind them per song. And then we had, 3 to 4 cameras, multi-tracked it, and then just gave it all to the artists. Just because it's just like, I believe in these artists so much so that I want them to have good captures of their live recording so that they can get more shows, so that I can see them more often. It's all just like so that I can just witness them more. You
Give
know?
it back to the community, make the community grow. It's wildly important.
It is, because it's like, how often have you seen just a really shitty version of a live recording of something, and you've been like, no thanks.
It is so disappointing. The amount of like, how do I put it? Vertical format, shitty phone, just kind of held up like this, 17 people crossing in front of the camera during one song. It's sad.
And the audio's just drums.
Yes. It's not good. But yeah, you look at them you're like, oh my God, I know what this could be.
Yeah.
If they just put a little bit of effort, got some, people with some talent and equipment together, it could be amazing.
It could be.
And just the ability to, like you said, deliver that back to these people so they can use that to promote themselves to get better stuff.
Absolutely. And like that honestly has been a big hope and goal in this whole process, because I find that I love the live iterations of music. I love the nuance. I love the human element of it. And I'm realizing now that there are a fuck ton of live albums coming out.
Oh?
Yeah, or more so than I've ever witnessed ever. I was just listening to one on the way here. Omar Apollo, shout out to him, and check out he just released it this past Friday. And also there's, I think it's a 3 or 4 song thing on YouTube, and it just looks super cool.
That sounds great. We'll definitely put that in the description down below. Okay. So now that you've scaled a little bit and we talked about the early part of sessions, what was that like early middle part? Because I imagine there are various stages of growing pains that you experience as this thing gets a little bit larger and gets a little bit more momentum, or some of the hurdles that you experience in that middle phase.
Well, one of the biggest hurdles that we realized was that we thought just by doing something, just by doing this thing consistently, it will get the people seeing it. People would witness it.
Yeah.
Because none of us were marketers, obviously, with that statement, right? We're just like, if we do it long enough, the right people will notice.
Yeah.
And that wasn't true.
Sure.
And so with that realization, it came to be like, let's get people like Desiree Jones in on this and start helping out with social media, so that we can start pushing it down people's throats a little bit more, because we firmly believe in it. But if people don't know about it, how are they going to believe in it?
Yeah. There's one of the quotes that I really like is, consistency doesn't guarantee success, but inconsistency guarantees failure. But the unspoken part of that first part is that consistency does not guarantee success.
Right.
So by just doing the thing over and over and over again, there are other elements at play in order to be successful, like you've encountered.
Yeah, and sure, you're honing your craft, but to what end?
Yeah.
For no one to see it. I mean, I'm not saying that no one saw it.
Of course.
But, we thought that there'd be a lot more eyes on it, which is fine. I think that maybe it's just that the correct people saw it in the time that they needed to see it. That's my enabling my lack of marketing.
Was there a certain expectation tied to that? Was it an amount of views, or you hit X number of episodes and this happens? And
No. What we really wanted to do was to have it so that we would be able to give back financially to the artists as well. And so we had a Venmo open. We had like a ticker at the bottom. And a lower third thing pop up every once in a while that says like donate at least $5.
Right.
And like it was very much chump change that we were able to give to the artists. But the cool thing that we did was, I firmly believe in a hospitable environment, because it really creates an atmosphere that people feel like they're cherished, and I believe that art is something to be cherished. And so what we would do is, like, especially when we were at Fremont Abbey, There was Unita Burger right next door. There was that pizza place. I'm forgetting the name. Whatever it is. Sorry. And then there was Pecado Bueno, and they would donate meals for every band member, every crew member.
Okay.
And it was quite a magical feat. So much so that witnessing Richard McLean, aka
Switch Daddy,
or Switchard McLean Cuts.
That too.
Switch Daddy. Witnessing him on, I think it was our session that we had on June 27th, 2020. I only remember that because it was my birthday. And it was a 12-hour live stream. I saw him eat somewhere between 3 and 5 Buddha bowls with salmon.
Ooh.
Which, like, that's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, you're working all day.
Yeah. But, like, even, I don't know. I think what happens with me in a production mindset is I think about food last.
Sure. Yep.
Yeah. I think of it more of a reward. I don't think about it at all. Like, right. I'm just like, I got shit to do.
Yeah.
Also, can I curse?
Yeah, absolutely.
Fuck yeah.
So yeah, that middling phase is always really interesting because, different phases of a project, different developments, like you're going to run into different problems. The challenges of yesterday will not be the challenges of today and will definitely not be the challenges of tomorrow.
Yeah, but those things that you failed at, and quote unquote failed at, I always think of them as things to put in the back pocket and things that I learn by. I always say to everyone that I work with, if they fail, that it's the best way to learn because, like, you're going to intrinsically remember that shit.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I touched that one thing and then electricity went throughout everything. I'm not going to ever do that again, That's a terrible example, but it was an example. Yeah, I love to fail. I'm really good at it because I bounce back.
You and me both. It's, like you said, the most humbling but effective teacher that you can run into. Things keep you up at night.
Totally. What has been your biggest failure that you've learned from?
So many to choose from.
Maybe give me something good.
I'm trying to figure like domains in life.
Do you need me to give you more parameters?
I'll take a general one and I'll do a specific one. Just overconfidence in my early years. Just because I did something once or twice and it went perfectly, it does not mean the third and fourth time will do that well, because consistency is a thing too. Everyone can bowl a strike once and two in their life. You're not going to bowl a 300 game, right? So I would do things a couple of times, like, okay, yeah, I got this. I've done this 4 or 5 times. Cool. Fantastic. And then now I'm put in an environment with pressure to like perform and do the thing. And I'm like, fuck, it's not going exactly how I thought. And then I didn't have any of the foundational skills to, bounce back from like errors or mistakes or something like this. Mm-hmm. I was solely relying on hitting green lights the entire way through, which obviously is not a recipe for success.
Like, nope. Yeah. Gosh, yeah, I feel that. I feel that so hard. Oh man.
What about you? What's something in your history?
I mean, not to piggyback off of yours, but I'm going to piggyback off of yours. As someone new into an industry, you're riding on book smarts, right? And so I came from the Art Institute, I did a 2-year associate's degree there for audio production. And because I was on Elliott Bay looking out at the water, I thought that I fucking knew it all. I thought I was going to go in a recording studio and like make my own recording studio and blah, blah, blah. But no, I actually, in the end of my time there, I transitioned to being more into live sound. And which is funny because live sound is the most transparent showcasing of your failures. Right?
Yeah.
Because if you fuck up, everyone's going to look back at you. It's pretty much like them just pointing at you and laughing. or that's how I feel. So it's a matter of like things that happen in setup that maybe I'm not going to speak in specifics.
Sure.
Obviously. But it's like realizing specific things in setup to do so that it minimizes the potential for failure.
Yeah.
And like that's it for me, is that throughout the time of me doing anything production, it's been the realization that to have a good flowing production, you have to have pre-production.
Yes.
And you have to have all the I's dotted and the T's crossed. And one can only strive to be as good at that as like someone like Richard. Oh my God, dude.
Wild how good they are at this.
I don't get it. Like, to me, I see the shit that he puts out and I'm like, that would take me 10 years. I don't know. And I wouldn't even be half as, I don't even know. It's super impressive. So, all that to say is I've learned how to navigate failure by just being ready for it.
I mean, yeah. So I think something that you alluded to in like the intake form, like the MacGyverness of being able to solve situations and problems on the fly with creativity.
Yes.
Super vital skill. And I think that's something that only really gets developed when you're forced to be in that situation.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, it's a wild thing of anything can happen, right?
Yep.
Any little thing can happen. But you have this Rolodex of potential issues and resolutions, right? It's like, if this happens, then this needs to happen. But it's not like that Rolodex isn't actually there. It's just like when shit happens, you're like, engage, and
yeah.
you know. And I think one of the aspects about that that has made me so adaptable is also like wielding a bunch of different creative outlets, because it engages different parts of your brain.
Yes.
And it also gives you different skill sets, obviously. And I am a huge proponent for like basically being an arts advocate. I'm always the person that will be like, if someone's coming up to me and be like, oh, I have a thought of a painting, or I have a thought of this thing, I'll be like, well, let's figure it out. Let's do it. I love doing that shit. And so over time, in the accumulation of all of whatever I've done in my life, it's adding all of that to the bank of things to, or the quiver of things to take out an arrow from and be like, oh yeah, I can do that because, you know, I sawed a piece of wood in half once. I don't know. It's totally true. So I advocate to everyone out there to always be pursuing some creative outlet. That's what Pamela Frederica Love would say, who's my mama.
Do you have a favorite MacGyver moment?
The very first one that came up, God, this is so stupid. I love it so much though. So have you ever been laying on your bed and your lights are on, and you realize that if you were to have any action to get out of bed, it'd wake you up? Yep. So I had this realization, and so I created this pulley system that it had an up and like a down pulley, so that I could, from my bed, just pull on it and it would either turn off or on the light. Now, the best part about this is it was probably like 2 feet away, maybe 3 feet away from like my actual bed.
Yeah.
But I justified the need to have it by means of like any action makes me.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah. It was really funny because I just sent like a cryptic image of it to my friend Joseph Steiniger one day. And I was like, guess what I made? And he guessed it instantly. And I'm like, oh, you know me. I feel seen.
Yeah, I feel validated.
Yeah.
I think my favorite one on set is, I'm not going to tell you what show this is because I don't want people to
You
know.
got a shitty rig for me? You got a shitty rig for me?
Oh god, it's fantastic. So the problems I was running into is I had my fluid head tripod. So for those listening, it's a tripod that you mount the camera to, and it allows for very smooth fluid movement so that you can track a subject. Except I forgot the plate that mounts the camera to said tripod because I'm fantastic like that.
You are fantastic like that.
Thank you. The other problem is the stage light that was, illuminating the subjects on stage way too concentrated. We needed something to diffuse it. So, and the third thing was one of my cameras has a tendency to overheat. So, so I have all of these problems that I'm juggling around, and a production assistant comes by and like, hey, do you need anything whatsoever? And I just kind of look at them like, I need some duct tape, a pillowcase, and a fan. And they're like, what? I'm like, please just trust me. These are the things that I need.
I love that so much.
They're like, okay. So I duct tape my camera to the fluid head to circumvent the problem of not having the camera plate.
Yep.
So now I have this working. I take a pillowcase to act as a diffuser to go in front of the really bright light, and it can't be something that's flammable really because it gets very hot.
Yes.
And then I had a fan pointing at my camera because I'm not capturing audio from that camera and it just needs to be cool. So the production was saved. But just
What were you filming?
if I'm too specific, they'll know because I've only done a couple of these. But an event in a venue that had a stage.
Okay. That's all I need to know.
But yeah, that was fun. But the look that the production assistant gave me, they're like, what? It really took them aback. They had to take a moment to process the request. They were like, okay, fine, here we go.
Yeah.
But it's one of my most recent and favorite moments.
Yeah, that is incredible. I love that. It's funny because like when I submitted my form, you're like, oh, I align with this, and now I actually know that you do. You get it.
There you go.
My one of my favorite things is when I'm either picking up something or cleaning something and realizing the resources around me, and there's like a need of like, oh, I need to get that thing over there. What do I have around me? Right. Oh, I have like one of those 25-cent little sticky hands, and yeah, that'll do. Just shit like that. I love it.
It's absolutely fantastic. Okay, so now on the later stage, we'll call it more recent time, so like 2023, 2024. What kind of stuff is Sessions doing, and what's the path and current stuff that you're running into?
Yeah, so our current pathway was determined by us all meeting together one day and just going through like what we all wanted to pursue in the next year. So at the end of 2023, we were talking about what we wanted to do in 2024. And after not listening to Richard for like 4 years, we finally listened to Richard, and the idea, doggy,
He loves you.
Oh. You're a three-legged dog.
What a good boy. I call him my little tripod. I guess big tripod. He's a big boy.
He's a big boy.
He's 130 pounds.
How did you get so big?
His shoulders are like 35 inches tall. It's a lot.
You're a beautiful guy. All right, now go lay down, please.
He's like, but I can just be here.
Okay, that's fine too. Yeah, so after not listening to Richard for like 4 years, it was the realization that now was the time. And it came at a point where we were kind of in a lull state, and we wanted to do something different. Because that was the realization of like, hey, we're just doing something consistently, but we're not still getting the traction that we want or that we thought we would get. So let's just break the mold. Let's just do something different. And that different thing that was proposed by Richard was working in tandem with an organization, a nonprofit arts organization, that we could create a show with them and for them and help uplift things that they're about, and also insert our own agenda on it. And so from that, we started working with this nonprofit called Future Arts. And we built out a show where we really wanted to showcase all of the potential things that we could do with them in one show.
It's really cool, by the way.
It was really cool and also fucking crazy.
It was a little crazy.
Yeah. But it's like unhinged and crazy in the best way, I think. Because like I said, like that's exactly the purpose of that, is a pilot episode of a show to showcase exactly like all these different elements that we could pursue. And so we all worked together. It was Richard, me, and the executive director, Yulia, meeting once a week at least to talk through it for like 6 months. And then it got to a point where we were meeting up at Emerald City Trapeze in the loft area, and then it started to become more real.
Yeah.
And then it just so happened that it aligned with a transfer of ownership at Emerald City, and we got the knowledge that it was like our last show there without paying.
Right.
And we're like, okay, well, we're going to go balls to the wall on this one.
Yeah, yeah.
And so we did. And I think my favorite takeaway, and maybe it was because it was musical, it's definitely because it's musical, but it was the incorporation of the brainwave headset, the EKG reader that the artist put on their head, and it was reading their brainwaves while they were performing their music, and you got to see how that created obviously like projection that was showcasing those brainwaves. And then also on the other side of the split screen, you saw AI generated artwork based off of that input. And as if that wasn't enough, it then was given to people in the audience to kind of see the inverse side of that, which I love. Like it's
cool.
It was so cool and so tasty. And the band Austin really was phenomenal for it. Like, I called it, I think I called their genre psychoanalytic dream pop. And I told that to Austin. Austin is the main person in Austin, obviously. And she was like, "Oh my God, I feel seen." Like that's the best description. And I was like, I just kind of threw 3 words together, and there you go. But yeah, so that's one of the things that we're doing in this year. We're doing working with Brent a lot in like comedy stuff. That's not necessarily a sessions in place thing. It's more of a Binkstone Brent thing. Nate Jackson Comedy Club, Andrew Rivers stuff. And then, we just did Adam Ray, Dr. Phil at the Neptune, which is so cool. Like, he is a lovely human, and you feel seen when you're around him. Like, it's so cool. There's that. And then, like, one of the things that I'm very proud of, and like, you were a part of this too, a lot, and I'm very thankful for this, is the Drew Martin at Golden Gardens.
Yes.
For the longest time, a lot of us at sessions, what we really wanted to do was incorporate a narrative element into the music aspect. And I mean, this was a way of doing it. Down the line we'll probably get better at it. But I just loved the idea of it being shot sort of in one location but with 3 different scenes, and then surrounding myself with people that I trust to help fulfill the loose vision that I had. I just remember on set, Jason, you were like, "So what's your idea for this?" And I was like, "I don't know, like we'll shoot this way and maybe have like 2 of your cameras or something."
I was like, all right, let's make it happen.
Yeah. And like, that's the thing, is like, you're always a good sport and you're never a negative energy on set. And like, man, how many times have you been on set and there's someone negative that's like sucking the life out of the room?
It definitely changes the mood and the vibe. The whole day, how it feels is altered.
Totally. I've experienced that way too many times to have people like that surrounding me in a production. Like, I want to surround myself with people that I can volley ideas with, you know, like, and with you, Rachel, Steven, and myself. I think that was it.
I think that was it. Yeah.
And obviously Drew,
Yeah,
the artist.
the talents. Yeah.
We made something beautiful happen with like really a small group of humans. Like, that tunnel sounded awesome. And then one of the other things that we did this year to kind of finally put a stamp on the answer to your question, was the Among Authors stuff.
Yes.
And the funny thing about this was that we have been pursuing Among Authors as a band to be on sessions pretty much since day one.
Years. Yeah.
Yeah. And all we ever got was little lowly Ian Carter on his keyboard and singing, which is also just beautiful.
Fantastic in its own right.
Yeah. I think it was like our third or fourth session. It was at Fremont Abbey, and he was on the piano, and it was like in the middle of the room, and it's gorgeous. Anyways, so there was this like, will they, won't they have a show happening, this Ross and Rachel situation. And then finally they were like, okay, we are going to have it, but it's not going to be in Crocodile proper. It's going to be in Madame Lou's. And in that, they were kind of like, oh, I don't know if we want to film it, blah, blah, blah. But then Brent was like, no, we are filming it. And I'm so glad that we did, because it was Jay's last show with the band. And it was Ian's last show before him and Anu had their child Moose. And it was like a beautiful capture. Not much went wrong. The only thing that I know that sort of went wrong was that John wasn't really in frame a lot. The guitarist John wasn't in frame that lot. And that's sad. I mean, but that's kind of what happens when things get thrown together.
At the last second. Also, it's a challenging venue. Madame Lou's is small. There's a big crowd right up front. It's hard for people to move around and get space. It's
totally hard. And like, it was all done very last minute, and a lot of the scheduling stuff wasn't in my purview, so I couldn't really didn't really do that much or that much scheduling for it. And I was also doing lighting for it, as well as multi-tracking it.
You and your 17 hats.
Yeah. But I actually really loved doing the lighting for it. It wasn't doing like the theatrical lighting. It was doing the lighting for their logo,
right.
RGB LED light display. But yeah. So from that, we obviously put together a full length video that's now on YouTube.
Links down below.
Yeah. And I don't know, it's like 50 or so minutes, and there's a slight intermission that is sort of a day in the life of Ian and Anu with their new child Moose.
Oh, that's beautiful.
It's a beautiful little vignette that Ben went out and filmed over there. And then so that's on YouTube, and then each individual song's on YouTube, and then the album's on Spotify and Tidal and all those other streaming platforms. And then to put a cherry on top, we had a showing of it at Hereafter. And it's like, there's something so special about that, Jason, of like filming something in one part of the venue and then it being shown in the theater of that venue.
Yeah.
And showed it there is a really special moment that about 16 people saw. But
it means a whole hell of a lot to those 16.
Absolutely. You know, the mom and dad were there.
Yeah.
Surprise to Ian and Jay.
Yeah.
That was really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I've intentionally left what I think is the most interesting part for last. Tell me about the Emmy. What was that experience like? Because these things just don't happen overnight. There's a lot of build up to it. There's a lot of, structure and submission and, emotions leading up to the event. I'd love to hear a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So the person that really was gung-ho about us applying for the Emmys, because you have to apply for it if you didn't know, was Ben. And he was like, I believe that we have something worthy of an Emmy. And we all believe that too, but we all didn't really think it was attainable.
It felt like a dream, right?
Yeah. And, so we applied for it and gave them all our money. And then I remember the day and like where I was when we got news that we were finalists for it. Brent and I were working some event together, and we're like, holy shit, this is becoming more real. And then me being me, I did my due diligence and looked at the people we were contending against. And there was like the Seahawks had a commercial spot in there, and I'm like, they're not even in the same world. That's weird.
It's very different, but yeah.
Yeah. And there were like a few other multicam sort of tapings of shows and things like that. All of which didn't really have the heart feels and backstory that I felt that we had. And so when I learned that we were in the runnings to win the Emmy, I just was like, no, we're going to win it. We're going to win it. I have no doubt.
Felt it in your heart.
I felt it. I just knew it. And the day of the award ceremony, Brent found out that he had COVID. And so he wasn't able to go, which is like the saddest thing that, a big, huge person in it that was very helpful from the very beginning couldn't be there to help celebrate. But, we were there. We filled in his empty space. But it's cool because we also had the opportunity to have some of the people that have provided us in-kind sponsorship along the way to be there along with us. And, the very vague category of entertainment came up. And then next thing you know, Sessions in Place name was announced. And then one of the bits that were in the reel that we submitted started playing. And I was like, hell yeah, let's go give a speech now. And of course, I was prepared. I actually created it in 3 parts so that I would say one part, Brent would say one part, and Ben would say the next part. And I took on Brent's part and, gave whatever thing I said, I don't remember, but a lot of thankfulness to the people that really have put their blood, sweat, and tears into this thing, because it's a collective. It's not just these 6 dudes getting together. It's the people that these 6 dudes surround themselves with, right? And so it's like trying to raise up as many of those people and the venues and the other sponsors that like helped give us life in a way.
Yeah.
In so little words, you can't go on some tangent because then the music plays and then you get walked off. But no, it's very surreal. And it's really cool too, because the next day my uncle called me and he's like, we're the only 2 people in our family that have won an Emmy, because he's also won an Emmy. I was like, hell yeah, dude. He did the sound mixing for things like Seinfeld and things like that. Yeah. So it was like a very kindred bond thing.
Really cool.
Yeah, you're like, hell yeah, dog. But it's funny because I missed like 5 calls from him or something, and I was like, "What's this guy want?" Oh yeah, he just wants to say good job.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was a really cool thing that happened.
Yeah, I feel like the story of Sessions is really, really inspiring, in that it was a collective of creatives who came together with essentially very little resources, but your skill sets, your relationships, all that kind of stuff, and an idea. And then from that, you've built it up over the course of years. And like you said, the consistency, the diligence, the same behaviors and actions of, award winners and not award winners, you don't, they're the same, you just don't know where it's going to lie, because the moment before you win an award or have an accomplishment or whatever, you could have put all of that work in, and you don't know which way, hi buddy, you don't know which way the coin is going to land, only until after. Then you realize, like, hey, I was doing all of the markers of success. They were leading indicators, but they might have been hard to see. But now I hit this thing, and, you know, I'm not saying it justifies the whole thing and all of the effort, because the
Validity.
yeah, you feel validated. But it's just a very interesting story, and I think it's incredibly inspiring. And in the same way that, you know, Sessions gives back to the community, I've also tried to incorporate it in I guess my efforts. So in my photo and video stuff, I've, you know, offered heavy discounts to, you know, various artistic mediums that I think are underserved. Like, I've shot a bunch of burlesque shows recently. I've offered 50% off on just these things across the board, because I want to see that community grow. And I've taken that as direct inspiration from Sessions. So thank you.
God, fuck yeah. I love that. And like, that's exactly it right there, is that I want it to be seen as one of inspiration, right? Like, you know, to have a dream is one thing, but to realize that everything's tangible, everything can happen, everything can become reality as long as you fucking go for it, as long as you don't accept no, as long as you find the right people to surround yourself with. Because that was one big realization with Sessions that I had, was the realization of delegation. I can't do everything, even though I love to wear 17 hats, right? But to lean on the people around you and help, and then have them fill in that gap, I think is very valuable. And it's like an honor to be a part of something that people want to even volunteer their time. You know, like for us to create a thing where people are just so down to just be a part of it. It's like, what? Like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
For free?
Yeah.
But I mean, that's the thing, is when you can align everyone. Like, I like to think of it this way, where I want everything to reflect the beauty of the artist. I want everything like a silver platter to reflect that beauty. So everything from the photography to the lighting to the audio to the camera work to the tech directing, I want it all to uplift that artwork. Yeah. And to have that be surrounded by a team of volunteers wanting that as well is so incredible. And I am completely honored that people want to even be a part of it. Like, it's incredible.
Yeah.
And we all made a special baby together in a weird time.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I think the most important thing that people can do is find the others. Find the other people like you, similar values, similar ethics, similar drive and ambition. And, you know, sometimes it's very hard to find the others. Other times they just fall on your lap for whatever reason. But find the others, bring them together, go forth and do cool things. Because like you said, if you can find the others that the same passions give you life, 14-hour days don't really matter because it doesn't feel like work and you're really enjoying yourself and you want to be there. That goes a long way, and that's more than, you know, money can really buy you. There's a divergence at some point to where money can't buy you the things that you need, but passion will.
Oh, preach. Preach, sister.
Absolutely. So a closing tradition that we have on the show is that
we all get naked.
I know, right? That's the after party. Is that the previous guest leaves a question for the current guest, not knowing who the current guest will be. So the question left for you is, was there a pivotal moment in your creative career where you zigged, but you should have zagged instead?
Nope.
I mean, good for you.
No, I mean, the only thing that really popped in my head was me just going back to the failure thing.
Yeah.
Like, even if I zigged when I zagged, I would have had that realization and I would have aligned afterwards. Or so I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I've always been like musically inclined, audio inclined. Now, man, I do wonder what world I would be in now if I did go down the path of recording, There's that curiosity.
Yeah.
I did intern at a tooth and nail recording studio in Capitol Hill where I clean toilets basically. And that after doing that for, I don't know, 6 months or something, I was like, no, no.
Not for me.
Yeah. So recording studio stuff, not for me because of that. No, I don't know. The realization was after that was that I came to the thought process of I love the aspect of live production because you know what time it starts, you know what time it ends. You're not going to spend all day long in the studio trying to master the tone of a tom. The tone of the tom in the event is going to be the tone of the tom.
Yeah.
But the funny thing about that too is that that's not really the thought process for sessions in place because there's a whole post-production.
Yeah, of course.
So to answer your question, I don't have an answer to that question. I'm always zigging. What should I say?
So it was actually, I got to, talk to the person who created the question, and they said there was a little bit of a meta point to it.
Okay.
Because they're of the opinion, and myself included, that all choices in your life led you here.
Yeah.
For better or worse, they led you here. And like you said, you learned from your failures and other stuff. The meta point of their question is when someone is asked that question, it gives insights to how they view the world, how they view their life experiences, and how they view their path in life. If they have a major regret and, they voice that because they zigged or they zagged when they should have zigged or whatever, it tells you a little bit about their developmental path and how they arrived to this point in life. And it tells you a little bit about the mindset of how they view failure and all of the, negative aspects of life that then led you to this path. So I'm glad that you don't regret anything and you think of everything in the growth mindset of how it got you here, because that's how I like to think, and that's also how the person who designed the question likes to think.
Yeah, I guess I don't have any regrets in terms of like my professional life.
Sure.
Well, my personal life, I have one big one, but
different
we don't
podcast.
Need to go there. A different podcast. We'll be filming that next.
But no, Oliver, it's been an absolute pleasure. I am so blessed to have met you and to be brought into the Sessions in Place family and gone on all these amazing adventures with you and the team. It's been a true privilege and honor. And I think that just being around people who execute at such a high level, it's given me new ways to think about situations and how I can hone my craft even further. So thank you.
I'm glad that you have that takeaway. That's awesome. This is more for me than it is for the recording. But what was the first session that you were a part of?
That's a great question. I have it somewhere.
And where did you come from?
I just showed up one day. I'm like, hey guys, I'm here. No, I met Brent at Emerald City Trapeze. I was shooting photography for free for Sanka on one of the circus events at Emerald City Trapeze. And then Becca was like, hey, have you met Brent? And I'm like,
right.
No. They're like, you should meet Brent.
That's right.
And then he brought me into the sessions thing.
Yeah.
I don't remember what specific artist, but I don't know. I've been to like... I lost count. I can't give you a good answer there. I don't know how many I've been to.
Yeah. And you were part of Timber as well.
Yeah, we've done a lot of adventures over the last, 2 years to date my time with Sessions. Before we wrap, now's the opportunity to plug all your stuff. Where would you like to direct people's attention to, and where can people find you?
Yeah, so obviously the big one is Sessions in Place, and where you can find that is on Instagram, on YouTube. Those are the big ones, obviously. YouTube has our longer form content, which is always great. You can see the Among Authors thing on there. You can see the Drew Martin thing on there. You can see all 93 sessions we've had on there with remasters as well, because if you didn't know, not only do we do a live stream, but we took everything, because we filmed every camera independently and multi-tracked all the audio and made these really beautiful segments for each song. And that's great. In terms of other things that I have going, I mean, it's funny because, like, with the pandemic, it really sidelined my personal artistic pursuits, and I focused a lot more on this thing because it was very consuming. It is very consuming, but like I said, it's all validated in a way.
Yeah,
it's a worthy exhaustion at the end of the day. So like, eventually, I'm not going to put a timestamp on it, but I'm going to get back into my music. I already have a concept for this album that's like 14 songs long, and then also getting back into this other art form that I used to do back in the day, die cut vinyl pieces, these multi-layered pieces. I did a lot of plants that I did scents in candles. I don't know if I'm ever going to get back into candles, but I also have 50 pounds of wax that I bought in the pandemic that I've yet to touch. But, I mean, anything's possible with a little inspiration. And then revamping my home to be more fluid in all of that. So all that to say, sit down, be quiet, and just be isn't going to happen again. In terms of like events to look forward to with the sessions world, we don't really have anything that I know of. There is, like I alluded to earlier, there's the Nate Jackson Super Funny Comedy Club that we film once a month, his crowd work stuff in Tacoma. It's so good. Like, somehow, some way, we get there at like 4 p.m. and then the doors open at 6 or 6:30, and we set up 10 cameras.
Wow. Okay.
And I set up 7 shotgun mics around the stage to capture
the crowd work,
the audience. Yeah. And then there's 2 audience mics front, and then there's 2 in the back, and then it's all multi-tracked like it should be. And then I have redundancy in that. And so there's that to look forward to. Check out that Adam Ray special on YouTube as well. Dr. Phil at Neptune. It had Joel McHale, Sean Kemp, the Pike Place Market fishmongers. It had Rick Riz. It had this guy, I don't know his name because I don't watch reality TV, but he's on like Love Island or whatever. I don't know, but it was a Seattle-based one. That was cool. What else is there to drop? Hey, if anyone knows of any really cool locations for an office, we might be interested.
Sounds good. I'll put my feelers out there. But yeah, absolutely. All of the links to everything that you just mentioned will be in the description down below. Oliver, Senor Stellfox, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for being here.
Jason, Senor Sir, it's been nothing but lovely with you and your pets.
Awesome. Cheers.
Cheers.